It is about the hijab, the suit and the tie, Arabic dress, relationship to what the Quran is describing about an extortion of our fact treatment nature, in slavery, the captivation of our fact treatment nature, the enslaved fact treatment nature, the extorted fact treatment nature of kings. Time is a weapon. All nations. Before the wars that came before colonization, nations were tactically cultivated, hurt by international sciences, knowing by an archetypal criminalized enterprise that knew if it hurt all nations the way it was going to do, with a minority from each nation, that nations would automatically, denature their own relationship to, in other words, their own fact treatment nature. They would self-defend justifications of it, blaming out other things. At first, never realizing that humanity could not understanding how humanity that had already been revealed, understanding how to cause positive value nature progressions and evolution, how they could lose that, and how it was now, how it's set up, because they were setting up to build humanity as perpetually as a self-maintained, breached fact treatment nature progression, as a breaching nature roles of ourselves, blaming out other things, and just perpetual exploitation to that. The Quran is noting its own, is not the, I'm asking, is not the Quran noting its own extortion, or not its own in relationship to Muslims who say they were Muslims always, but they're not really, even if they believe it. The Quran is warning this. The Quran is giving the unbeliever or the believer the right to not agree with anything, and the obligation even to stand up. Is it not? Right in the beginning of the Quran, before any of the controversial parts. And I'll tell you one thing, Arabic dress is told one way different, and the suit and ties. No, the nations with bombs at each other, shoot each other, they all wear suit and ties in common. There's a relationship to internation sciences that built pseudo-identity, built the criminal insidiousness nature consciously, legalized. I'm a lawyer, I'm not, this is about American stories, about how lawyers and how our founders were extorted fact treatment natures, enslaved fact treatment natures. Not just people because they have pigmented skin. The black agencies did that too. And that's not black. You know, some people have skins almost black. We all have black pupils. And there's a reason why. We have white, all have white. See the whites of eyes. See, this is a game. This is cipher because our founders, even after, they had to hide that they were even part of the Constitutional Convention. That means you have to say the theater and the lies, as in nature, only realize they're tortured. They had internation database monitored conversations in relationship to laws that were everyone was a slave. If you met to discuss building infrastructure outside of a criminal internation, in internation monitored database relationships, they did bad things to whole families. Just as bad or worse in some cases. Physical that was sustained. I mean, this is sustained too. This built a nature of roles, of breaching nature roles, and consciously to make fact treatment natures perpetually incapable of doing anything other but exploiting roles within as it invested to roles within as. So what they did with the northern slavery was also with these roles with the infrastructure, with internation sciences monitored database relationship. What they were doing at the same time was the extortion of England. What they were doing at the same time was forcing that glorified as the face of England. But it was really not just the face of England. In Manila, like with Thriller Manila, with Ali, in Asia there, in the Philippines, what was forced to be the face of Spain was really not just the face of Spain. That was what was extorting Spain, was also forced glorified as Spain's face there. Because every fact-cheaping nature is extorted here, captive, even kings. Forced how? Captive what? Through a denatured value nature system. So the hijab is part of this. And it's negative value nature, too. Just like the suit and tie. This is all negative value nature. It's only positive one way. Just like time is only positive one way. It's only just manifest in relationship to the value of the quality fusion here to overall space. Immediate space value nature's value to it inherently, actively, and progressively. And this is going because it Lethe of Hades, getting forced from here. That's why we have to return its Campus Marcius, because then it reveals evolution. It reveals clear means. The whole everything comes together, and then everything is not in a divided, tortured, not just divided, conquered, fact-cheaping nature and system and value nature system, but tortured this way. And then you have to relax from that. You know what I'm saying? You have to not just take vacation, but people, and I'm not talking about in the news. The reason there's a problem, people can't take the news, is because they're attaching their with and as the nature of criminality, as criminal insidiousness nature. And see, this is how how us non-lawyers have to demonstrate what lawyers can't, because we're criminally re-engineered. First of all, proof is that our books are breached. The common books, the shared stories with the glorification of the forced, extorted, and slave fact-cheaping natures of our founders. They had, even after the Constitutional Convention, they had to hide that. So the criminal insidiousness nature is going to jump in there and make it like hold fact-cheaping nature perpetually of a quality ulterior from the quality it is, as quality fact-cheaping nature. In other words, as a quality of active correlation nature. We're a correlation nature. Active correlation nature, as ratiocination, is removing what is not positive all ways, and is noting where it can't. So we'll examine this in the three natures of zero, all this stuff. So this is what we have to do with healthcare. We fact-cheaping nature. To have a torture fact-cheaping nature. So schools, internation sciences to all areas. We have a shared enemy. Is the same thing with the Old Testament. The tree of the life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They're demonstrating the same thing the value of the predicate is demonstrating, as its value in the relationship to space nature with the English sentence. The same way it is, the same thing it is demonstrating distinctly, and the same way too at the same time with predicate act. It's negative value nature relationship to positive. But it's positive relationship to positive both ways. Always a positive relationship to positive with the nature of a sentence, a predicate. Always a negative value nature relationship to positive. And that positive is identity as nature unto itself. And the negative is negative nature unto itself. Especially criminally legalized criminal insidiousness, which is with and as the nature of every internation criminal enterprise, can only be facilitated in this age of technology by and through what is standing uncharged criminal insidious natures and juxtaposed with original steady progress, areas hurt, people stacking, all kinds of things like that, juxtaposed criminal enterprises, facilitated things like that. Same thing with money, with drugs. Money doesn't make the problem with the internation drug and stuff like that. Fact treatment nature does. And standards tactically denatured these people online. I asked, there's a Lethe family. We have to get a restraining order to get them away from the kids. We get them away from. They sequence shift too, because they're recorded with the online rape threats, not just interbranch, recorded tied to them, and then they sequence shift and stuff like that because they caught them, and they did that because they made everyone get out of our trouble because they have untimely deaths that brought up a school to me with kids. By the way, the news is fake. In the news, they won't take down the fake news. And then other strangers go and spreading rumors about it and stuff like that. Then you try to note that, you know, who would threaten a stranger and start making fun of a stranger trying to talk about bad acts on kids? The same people who after they were involved with that stuff, investigators with that, medical corruption involved with the areas. Then they were in the media when I was in jail, which dismissed charges, but because it was made up by the same court though. Then they were on the media, telling people lies, pretending I had a relationship to doctors when I was a kid that weren't at all. Same group. When I tried to report this to the police, I had to raise my voice. They used that. I had to raise my voice because I didn't want to get my mother in trouble. So, and in other words, they did a trick. In other words, my mother didn't do anything wrong, but these people used my previous neighbors and the ones that moved in with some detective Dylan tied to them and the new ones and to their real estate agent. I think that's his wife, Anna Dylan. They're tied to confessions with untimely deaths and with the rape threats and with sex offenders already recorded confessions, connections between them, and with FBI recorded to these people. Police, interbranch families from my town recorded with intercity stuff. I tried to report it, which is my bad, through a psychiatrist after 9/11. I had not for mental problems, but in other words, I didn't feel because it was a former director of the FBI, and there was federal criminals from my town with the police forms, and as the group that was grew up with the interbranch corruption, you know, and drug dealing at the same time, and trying to get me set up and trying to get me put in jail and stuff like that for things I never did. In other words, bad kids that did bad things in my school, but it was all because they had federal criminals who were co-defendants of a former director of the FBI. And first before they were charged with before they were federal criminals, they were involved in pension thefts and stuff like that, and all kinds of rackets with job sites, also juxtaposed with all kinds of internation families, the bodyguard, Castro's bodyguard used to work up here. They exploit everyone. I don't know about him, but I'm saying that our branches of government, they have relationships to internation families. They have agreements with policing, obviously, per the internation families themselves. I don't know about the Castro guy, but I know that the police forms in the interbranch, they use this as their own gang. The same people who are investigating the money streams, for example, going out of unions to locals, the nationals and international placement. Those people are also already criminally influenced for their relationships to areas and with the military, intermilitary families. So then we have evidence rackets, databases rackets. But it's not just that. It's tied to our nature in relationship to what colonization was engineered to stay dissolved, functional too, and for which is our fact treatment nature engineered all modern nations is standing legalized criminal insidious nature worse than overtly criminal. As nature, perpetually incapable of countering what comes through it, only let realize one side as all fake sides, tall areas, ill value nature systems, all ulterior from the only overall shared one. As a sick illness to Earth, humanity, as an illness with itself from a criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise, a breaching method that denatured nations tactically to denature the relationship to internation sciences. Then it took over education globally. It took over the campus marches, criminally engineered everyone to roles with it abridged. As live progression, as abridged fact treatment nature styles. So there's an illusion of opinions, differences of opinions, sharing evidence rackets, fact treatment racket roles, trick fact treatment natures, sequence shifting, blaming other people, pretending they don't understand things. Recorded doing this, sequence shifting, your evidence fabricating, and then with serious subjects, forcing sustained abuses of each age of fact treatment nature distinctly together, sequentially. So, we have evidence sequence shifting, cover-up natures, motivations, deeds in relationship to fact nature, treatment nature, that exploitations, all consciously employed as ulterior fact treatment to ulterior to identities with physical delusions, all ulterior from the identity as positive onto itself, inherently, actively, and progressively. So we must understand. That's why at the beginning of the Quran, before any of the controversial parts, says, because a believer and non-believer right to stand up and not pray, but if they don't see something's like right, positive always. With the first part, and the other part, that's only a relationship to that's a relationship to the shared extortion of the king, and with the Quran. The Quran's because when the process is, in other words, if people are attaching to scholarship, what scholarship says, not keeping their argument on what I'm like right here. I'm talking about the beginning of the Quran, for the sequence nature of it. That's not treated properly. They're leaning on scholarship, not leaning on actual nature of actual premises. You know what I'm saying? Because everyone has a shared enemy in their hurt, and the reaction nature is not understanding, is also insidious, multi-front. It's against correlation. So it's with our nations. So the same movements hurting people with strangers, and you know them because you're forced around them or whatever like that. It's still strange. It's also they also get people insidiously multi-front. They hurt them with kindness because we have a hurt conviction natures in progression. We have breaching nature. We have predatory sciences, predatory fact treatment natures, what our founders warned us against. And what George Washington was like this. That's why, because James Madison like this, because they didn't have free speech. They had to hide even They had to stay to the theater and stuff. They had to hide their relationships to the roles with the Constitutional Convention. That means they had to stay tactically the lies needed then. The reason they were forcing England only to be the face here, even though they had other nations, even though they didn't already have businesses set up that they had to keep all the others, they were still tactically denaturing the Native American landscape and education and memory. They weren't letting them remember even what means they had naturally. All the seeds that evolved. They evolved from natural contexts that were taken away, replaced by landscape theater, replaced by educational theater, replaced by each of the sciences categorically, sequentially, sabotaged. In our face is the glorification of our founders, extorted states. The proofs of it recorded, but then behind the backs of experts using knowledge of the most facts for trick fact treatment natures, breaching nature roles, delusion propagating. It's not funny. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And when people laugh at that stuff, when people try to take it serious, that's in relationship too to all the nature of investigators that are originally stayed worse than criminally legalized, criminal enterprise natures, because nature's only capable of exploiting it to all areas, inherently, actively, and progressively. And so until the original nature of the Campus Martius is revealed back, nature only will stay progressively positive unto itself. In other words, so if it's never revealed back the way it was before, they criminally re-engineered it. They made it like all the narratives about pantheism being about many gods. The ancients revealed that the reason there's many nations is because they are only valued by a trinity. And because that trinity has a value-nature relationship to its own value. Allah. And this is what English is revealed to teach by ancient internation sciences. And Yin Yang is teaching this too. Yin Yang is painting positive, inherent, active, and positive, and progressive relationship to itself. As change, as what does not change, which is identity's relationship to itself, as space is identity. Allah. Then why is it not called space? Because it's the inside of space. And we'll examine the proofs. Why would they demonetize my YouTube, my original music video, and you know what I'm saying? Like, they do those things. They use impressions instead of, while they're not doing mandated law and hiding sequence shift, making victims claim predators and stuff. They arrest me for harassment, for responding to I didn't even get to respond to it because the guy made confessions. I didn't even get to. The guy said they arrest me for harassment to hide untimely deaths, all kinds of nature's other crimes are revealed to me all at once, and they said it was tied to the school, which they had already been threatened rapes tied to, online even. And so in the process of learning, then it was Josh Julian too, recorded with the online rules, also tied to the interbranch confessions of recorded crimes with the rape threats, and with the school, and with the online policing, and it's furthered because the same groups they're doing rackets with you could tell they're covering live progressions from crimes they were involved with when they were kids recorded with databases crimes in relationship to my health class project on them dealing drugs with KKK and with the schools and with database crimes with the schools with like rackets where they put you in a class, you know, with people involved with the drugs and connect ways to the ones in the others' classrooms, and they had it all connected to evidence rackets with the drug dealers through the men and women who deal drugs through the kids, and that were involved with like they were the federal criminals I was talking about in relationship to trade center corruption, internation, all these families and police forms, and they were interbranched as one nature, ill together, as all one fake side of sides. So they're all supposed to be policing for their nations and stuff like that, but they have to be shared here and there. Because how are you going to police the shared markets position? So it's all broke. So what we do is put the water, that the denatured relationship. We understand what the agencies, how they were conceived as breaching nature roles, incapable of the fact treatment nature, necessary and worse than incapable, cultivated roles with, but to counter the nature of criminal insidious, the nature of crime method against our fact treatment nature. That's where they put up the laws with the black and white and stuff like that, and they made everyone too scared to talk about the database relationships forced, the denatured relationship to nature forced, how they built the homes to be new that then people would do for economic reasons. They would sell their homes or like part of it and then live in part and then make 2-3 family homes, and how now then they start stacking people in like New York was never right, but that they forced that with the extortion of our founders, were forced even after the Constitutional Convention. Was this pathology? They knew that if they had the denatured relationship to nature forced, as they had already forced it all in the rest of the world, that all raised like this with the live aggression, cover-up natures, criminal insidious nature they built consciously to exploit perpetually. And that's what they keep in the avert victims, the areas and streets that end up growing being avert criminal enterprises, because they never had a chance through the schools involved with it. See how Fox CT has the Los Salitos guys going in the school with the kids to talk to them. What is that? They're out of their minds. Then good people who want to talk about predicate or something like that, something of value, which is nature.